Okay, we're gonna start out by making a quilter's knot. You can see right here I have twisted my thread 3 times around my needle, and I use my non-dominant hand to hold that tight while I pull the rest of the thread through until there's a knot. Woohoo! Go us. Okay, and then I am going to secure that knot under where the binding will be. And you don't really have to pull this through like a normal quilter's knot. If it's just sitting securely there, that's good. And then I will start the slip stitch. So you start your slip stitch by just putting your needle in at the very top of the binding. The front of your binding should already be stitched, machine stitched down onto the front. So we're just working on the back here. So you put the thread through the very top and then only through the backing layer. You don't want to go through the batting or the front. And then you come back through to the top of the binding. And then I make sure that I go right behind where my stitch came out on that binding, so the thread doesn't have to travel very far. And yep, make sure that nothing is coming out, nothing showing on the front. And then you will just continue the stitch until your thread runs out. But what do you do when your thread runs out? Okay, so all I do, you could do a quilter's knot for this and pull it through, but I just feel like it's easier to just stitch through the seam that you have there and just make a knot. Just make a loop, pull your needle through that loop and make a knot. That's going to be just fine. And then use a pair of snips, which are really tiny little scissors that can get close to the fabric, and cut that extra thread off. And then you're just going to start back up like at the beginning of the video, right where you ended off. So now how do you finish the quilt? You can see here that there's only a little piece of binding that is not stitched down. So I'm going to continue my slip stitch, and I personally like to continue past the line where I started at the beginning. So you'll have this area that is slip stitched twice, and I just like to do that because it just feels more secure, you know? You want your quilt to last. I don't know, it makes me feel good. You don't have to do it, but that's how I do it. So I continue to slip stitch here, and then we'll make a quilter's knot again. It's a little trickier at the end. If you've done it before, you know what to do. But if you haven't, it's the same as the beginning. You wrap it around 3 times. And then you pull through. And then when I pull that through behind the binding, I make sure that I am not going through where my machine stitching is for the front, because that knot is not going to pull through there, so you'll just get stuck at that line of stitching. So I go over, I hope that makes sense, I go over that line of machine stitching before I try to bury it in the binding. And then you'll see here that, my knot's too long. So I just go back right in where I came out, and I make sure that I go a little bit longer. That's all. Pull it back in. Pop. And now it's all buried and secure. Good to go. And then you just take your snips, clean it up, and you just finish yourself a quilt. Heck yeah. Now get to snuggling.